Today we are covering lesson 2.5 in our books on page 28. It's titled Solving Literal Equations for a Variable. So we need to solve literal equations for a specified variable. So it will tell us whether to solve for x or b, m, etc. Then we're going to use a formula that has already been solved for a specified variable in order to determine an unknown quantity. You might not know what a formula or a literal equation is, so please go ahead and take the time to read these two paragraphs that are on your screen or that are in your book. So formulas are used in a lot of different areas of our life. Think math, physics, economics, sports, medicine, etc. So that's what we're going to be focused on today. A literal equation contains more than one variable, more than one letter. So it might have an x and an m. We might have b and w. So look at example A. You can go ahead and write this equation down in the My Notes section of your book somewhere, and I'm going to walk you through how to solve this. It says that we are solving for x. So we want to isolate this 4x term first, so I need to get rid of the b. It says plus b, so the opposite is to subtract b from both sides. This cancels out. I'm going to bring down my 4x because that's what I'm left with on the left-hand side of my line or my equal sign. 12 minus b. I cannot put those two things together. They are unlike terms. One is a number, one is a variable. So I need to leave it as 12 minus b. We're still not done here because x has a coefficient in front. There's a 4. X is being multiplied by 4, so the opposite is to divide. Whatever I do on the left side, we have to do on the right side. So we're also going to divide this by 4. And we're left with x equals 12 minus b, all being divided by 4. I could simplify or reduce if I wanted to. So I could do 12 divided by 4 and then negative b divided by 4. So if we do that, 12 divided by 4 is 3, a whole number. And then minus b divided by 4 cannot be simplified or reduced. So either answer works for me. Take a look at the try these A. Notice the directions say that we're going to solve each equation for x. So we need to isolate x in every single one of these equations. So if I'm looking, x is right here with my A. I need to move the plus 7 to the other side with a 3. So the opposite of addition is to subtract. Three minus 7 is negative 4. Now remember, we're solving for x. So I want this x all alone. I need to get rid of the a. Currently, a and x are being multiplied together. So the opposite is to divide by a. Divide by a. X equals negative 4 divided by a. Those are not both numbers. They're not both letters. So I need to leave that alone. And that becomes my final answer. X equals -4 divided by A. That's in simplest form. It's reduced. You can't do anything else with that answer. So go ahead and try question B. Again, you're solving for x. So your first step is to get the cx all alone. So we need to move my constant term, which is -10, to the other side with my other constant, which is -5. Go ahead and pause and take the time to work out this question, see what you can come up with. I'm going to start by adding 10 because that's the opposite or the inverse of subtracting 10. If I do it on the left, I have to do it over here on the right. -5 plus 10, those are both numbers. I can combine them together, and we get +5. X is not alone yet. There's a C out in front. Those two things are being multiplied. So the opposite here is to divide by C. Those cancel. Divide by C. X equals 5 over C. That would be my final answer. Question C. We're still solving for x. So we want to isolate -3x first. So I need to get rid of the d. Go ahead and pause and try to work through question C by yourself first. The opposite operation here is to subtract. Subtract. Bring down your -3x equals, if I was to say this out loud, it says -9 minus, or take away d. -9 minus d. Those are unlike terms. I can't put them together. Because I'm subtracting d, keep this subtraction sign here. I will see a lot of students that say -9 minus d is -9d. That's not true. Please do not do this. If I was to say what this is out loud, this is -9 multiplied by d times d. That's not the same here. I'm not multiplying. We wrote subtract d. So don't do this. -9 minus d. X is not alone yet. There's a -3. That's the coefficient out in front that I didn't highlight. So the opposite of multiplying by -3 is to divide by -3. Divide by -3. Wow, we got a lot of negatives here. X equals, let's do this first. -9 divided by -3. Two negatives make a positive. 3 goes into 9 3 times. Then if I do this, two negatives make a positive, and then d divided by 3. To check your understanding at the top of the next page, question 1. Is the equation 2x plus 4 equals 5x minus 6 a literal equation? Explain. Again, I would always like you to pause and go ahead and work through these questions by yourself. A literal equation needs to have more than one type of variable. If I'm looking at this question, I see an x here and I see an x here, but x is the same as x. Those are like terms. Those are the same variable. I do not see a different variable, a different type of letter. So I am going to say no, this is not a literal equation. because the equation only has one variable, which is x. A literal equation needs to have more than one type of variable. Describe the similarities and differences between solving a normal equation, which we did in 2.1, 2.2, and 2.3 that you took a quiz on, that only contains one variable, and solving a literal equation. So one thing that's the same is that we're still using the algebraic method. I'm still doing the opposite operation. So if it says plus 5, I still subtract 5. If it says 3 times x, I'm still dividing by 3. So we're still doing the same steps. Our process, our work is the same. We need to isolate a variable on one side of the equation. But what is different here is now you should notice that all of these answers have a variable in them. So here I have an A in my answer, I have a C in my answer, and I have a D in my answer. Before, we just had x equals a number. So x equals 2, or m equals -5. So now our answers contain a variable. I'm going to skip example A, but you can go ahead and take a look at that and walk yourself through that example. But let's look at the try these B question. We have an equation right here. T equals 13p plus 108. I have two variables, a t and a p, which means this is a literal equation. Okay, this equation can be used to estimate the cooking time t. So t stands for cooking time in minutes. So not seconds, not hours, minutes, for a stuffed turkey. Ooh, we should be doing this problem around Thanksgiving. That weighs p pounds. So p stands for pounds or weight. The directions say solve the equation for p. So go ahead and write down this equation. Wherever you have room in your book or a scrap piece of paper, and I want you to pause and try your best to solve this equation for p. My p is right here with a 13. So what I didn't highlight was the positive 108. So let's cancel that out or get rid of it. So we're going to subtract 108. We have to do it on this side of our equation as well. T and negative 108 are unlike terms, so I need to keep them separately. $13 and p are being multiplied together. And we just want p by itself, so the opposite is to divide by 13 on both sides. So let me rewrite this as p equals t minus 108, and all of this is being divided by 13. So I did the first part of the question, which is solve the equation for p, but we're not done. It says, then find the weight of a turkey that requires 285 minutes to cook. So does that stand for p pounds and the weight of the turkey? Or does that stand for t time in minutes? That stands for t. So t equals 285 minutes. We need to take this number and plug it in to our equation for t. So we've been substituting a lot this year, so that's exactly what we're going to do here. So P pounds equals the cooking time, which is 285 minus 108 divided by 13. So P equals 285 minus 108 gives us 177 over 13. So think about this. When you go to the doctor and they always say, step on the scale for me, are they going to say you weigh 285 pounds over 2? No, that doesn't make sense, right? Or if you are weighing meat at the grocery store or bananas or whatever, a fraction does not make sense in terms of our situation. So take your calculator and turn this into a decimal. So the pounds or the weight of the turkey is approximately 13.6. And we use LBS, or you could write out the word pounds. So 13.6 is the weight of the turkey. Flip your page over to question 3. You are going to see a big table or a chart here. These are formulas that you might use in chemistry, or sometimes we use the distance formula in math class as well. So the first column is just telling you the name. The middle column, it gives us the formula, but then it also tells us after that what D stands for, R stands for, and T stands for. So what I want you to do is just focus on these formulas right here. And in the last column, it tells us which variable we need to solve for. So if I look at the distance formula, it's D equals RT. D equals RT. And it wants me to solve this formula or this literal equation for R. So be careful. We want to make sure that we're not solving for D or that we're not solving for T. That's why it's really important here to read directions. So you have the entire My Notes section on page 30 where you can do all of this work, and then just go ahead and write your final answer in the box. So use the My Notes section of your book. I want you to go ahead and pause, and I want you to try these questions. Do your best. R is being multiplied by T, so the opposite here is to divide. Well, I want to cancel out the T, so I want to divide by T. Cross those out. Divide by T. And now R is by itself, so this would be my answer. The rate, R, equals distance divided by time. For this pressure formula, we are solving for F. And if I was to talk this out, F is being divided by A. So the opposite of divide by A is to multiply by A. Multiply by A. So it doesn't matter if we write F equals AP or if we write PA. It's the same thing. The next question, we are solving for m. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of v squared first. V squared. So I'm going to divide by v squared. Divide by v squared. So k divided by v squared equals 1/2 m. Currently, m is not alone. There's a 1/2 with it. So let's multiply by the reciprocal. So flip the fraction. So I want to multiply by 2 over 1, which is the same thing as 2. Over here, we need to do the same. Multiply by 2 over 1. So 2 times k is 2k. 1 times v squared is v squared. So this is what m is equal to. It's all by itself because these two things cancel each other out. And m is all alone. So m equals 2k over v squared. The next is u equals mgh. We are solving for h. Currently, h is being multiplied by m and g. So the opposite of multiplication is division, and I'm actually going to get rid of m and g in one step. So h is being multiplied by m, so I'm going to divide by m, but it's also being multiplied by g, so I'm going to divide by g. Over here, I have to do the same thing. Cancels, cancels, and we're done. H is all by itself. So h equals u divided by mg. Okay, our very last one. P1 V1 equals P2 V2, or P sub 1 V sub 1 equals P sub 2 V sub 2. It's pressure and volume. We are solving for V2. V2. Currently, V2 is being multiplied by P2, or P sub 2. So the opposite is we're going to divide. Those cancel. Divide. And I'm all done. This will be our final answer. So do not let the letters confuse you or scare you. Have confidence. You can do it.